You open your banking app on a Monday morning and watch $2,400 leave your account, same as last month, same as the month before that. You've done this so many times, the number barely registers anymore. It's just the mortgage, the fixed cost, the non-negotiable. You tap close, put your phone down, and move on with your day without giving it another thought. I want you to give it another thought, because that $2,400, the number that feels routine, that feels like the cost of having a home, that feels like what everyone pays, is not actually $2,400. It is, when you calculate the full picture across the life of the loan, closer to $1.3 million. And the gap between what that payment feels like every month and what it actually costs across 30 years is one of the most significant and least examined numbers in most people's financial lives. I'm not saying this to make you feel bad about buying a house. I bought one. I understand the decision. What I am saying is that most people sign a 30-year mortgage without ever seeing the real number, because the process is specifically structured to keep the monthly payment visible and the total cost invisible. And once you see the full number, the decisions available to you look completely different. My name is William, and today we're going through exactly what your mortgage is actually costing you, why that number is so much larger than the payment suggests, and the specific moves available right now that can change it by hundreds of thousands of dollars.
First, where the $1.3 million comes from. Let's build the number from the ground up so there's no ambiguity about where it comes from. You purchase a home for $380,000. You put 10% down, $38,000. You finance $342,000 on a 30-year fixed mortgage at the current average rate of approximately 6.8%. Your monthly principal and interest payment, $2,237. Call it $2,400 with property tax and insurance included, which is roughly what most borrowers in mid-range markets are actually paying all in. Over 360 months, your total principal and interest payments are approximately $805,000 on a $342,000 loan. The interest alone, the pure cost of borrowing the money, is $463,000. You borrowed $342,000 and you're paying back $805,000. But that's not $1.3 million yet. Here's where the rest comes from. Property taxes on a $380,000 home at the national average effective rate of 1.1% run approximately $4,180 annually. Over 30 years, that's $125,400, and that number increases as your assessed value rises, which it almost certainly will. Homeowners insurance averages approximately $1,800 annually on a home at this price point. Over 30 years, $54,000. Maintenance. The standard financial planning guideline is to budget 1% of home value annually for maintenance and repairs. On a $380,000 home, that's $3,800 per year. Over 30 years, accounting for modest home value appreciation, the cumulative maintenance cost runs approximately $140,000 to $160,000. The roof, the HVAC system, the water heater, the windows, the appliances, none of these are optional and none of them are covered by anyone but you. Add it up. Loan repayment, $805,000. Property tax, $125,400. Insurance, $54,000. Maintenance, $150,000. Total, approximately $1,134,400. And we haven't touched the opportunity cost yet. The $38,000 down payment invested at historical average market returns of 7% over 30 years becomes approximately $289,000. Add the closing costs, typically 2 to 5% of the purchase price, call it $11,400, invested over the same period at the same return, approximately $87,000. Total real cost, including opportunity cost, approximately $1.3 million. For a $380,000 house. I want that number to sit for a moment before we move on, not because home ownership is wrong. I own a home and I'd make the same decision again with the right structure, but because a decision made without seeing the full number is not a fully informed decision, and the mortgage industry has no financial incentive to show you this number before you sign.
The amortization reality, why the first 10 years are almost entirely interest. This is the part that genuinely changes how people think about their mortgage, and it's almost never explained clearly at closing. Your first monthly payment of $2,237 in principal and interest breaks down to approximately $1,938 in interest and $299 toward the actual balance. You paid $2,237 and reduced what you owe by $299. By the end of year 5, you've made 60 payments, totaling $134,220. Your remaining loan balance, approximately $319,000. You've paid $134,220 and reduced the balance by $23,000. The other $111,220 went to the bank as interest. By year 10, you've paid $268,440 total. Your balance has dropped from $342,000 to approximately $289,000, a reduction of $53,000. You've sent $268,440 to the bank and reduced what you owe by $53,000. The remaining $215,440 went to interest. This is how amortization works. It is not a glitch or a predatory practice. It is the mathematical structure of compound interest applied in the lender's favor over the long term. But it has a specific implication that most homeowners never act on. Every extra dollar paid toward principal in the early years of a mortgage is dramatically more powerful than the same dollar paid later because it eliminates the base on which years of future interest would have compounded. I cannot overstate how significant this is. A single extra principal payment of $300 in month 1 eliminates more total interest than $300 paid in month 200. Not by a small amount, but by a factor that most people find genuinely surprising when they calculate it.
What actually changes if you pay extra? The numbers are not small. Let me show you 3 scenarios on the same $342,000 loan at 6.8%, so the comparison is concrete. Scenario 1. You make the standard payment of $2,237 every month for 30 years. Total interest paid, $463,000. Payoff, month 360. Scenario 2. You add $300 per month to the principal, bringing your total monthly payment to $2,537. Total interest paid, approximately $362,000. Payoff, month 276. You eliminated $101,000 in interest and paid off the mortgage 7 years early, from $300 extra per month. Scenario 3. You add $600 extra per month. Total interest paid, approximately $284,000. Payoff, month 224. You saved $179,000 in interest and paid off the mortgage more than 11 years early. The $600 extra per month scenario saves $179,000 in interest and produces 11 additional years of no mortgage payment, cash flow that, redirected into investments at 7% annual returns for those 11 years, generates approximately $430,000 in additional wealth. The total financial differential between Scenario 1 and Scenario 3, interest saved plus investment return on the freed cash flow, approaches $600,000 from the decision to pay $600 extra per month, made once, automated, running in the background without requiring any further decision. The refinancing calculation, when it makes sense and when it doesn't. Pause. I want to address refinancing directly because it comes up every time mortgage costs are discussed, and the math is more nuanced than most people realize. Refinancing into a lower rate saves money in the obvious way, your monthly payment drops and your total interest decreases, but it has a less obvious cost that frequently gets ignored, resetting the amortization clock. If you've been paying your mortgage for 7 years and you refinance into a new 30-year loan, you are restarting a loan structure where the vast majority of each payment goes to interest rather than principal. The lower rate reduces your total interest mathematically, but the extended timeline and the reset amortization can partially offset those savings, depending on how long you stay in the home. Pause.
The correct refinancing calculation is not just, does the new rate save money? It is, does the new rate save enough money across the realistic timeline I'll stay in this home to justify the closing costs of the refinancing and the reset of my amortization progress? The general guideline is that refinancing makes financial sense if you can reduce your rate by at least 0.75 to 1%, you plan to stay in the home long enough to recover the closing costs through monthly savings, typically 2 to 4 years, and you refinance into a term equal to or shorter than your remaining loan term, rather than resetting to a full 30 years. That last condition is the one most people miss. Refinancing from a 23-year remaining term into a new 30-year loan at a lower rate looks like a win on the monthly payment. Over the full term, it frequently isn't, because you've added 7 years of payments back onto a loan you'd been reducing for 7 years.
The specific moves available to you right now. 4 actions in order of financial impact. The first is finding your current amortization schedule and calculating what one extra principal payment per month does to your total interest and payoff timeline. Your loan servicer is required to provide this. Most online mortgage calculators will run the scenario in under 2 minutes. See the number before you decide whether the extra payment is worth it, because most people who see the number decide it is. The second is setting up that extra principal payment as an automatic transfer on the same day as your regular payment, not a decision you make monthly, a structure you build once. The behavioral research on extra mortgage payments is consistent. People who automate them maintain them. People who decide manually each month maintain them for approximately 3 months and then stop. The third is auditing your current rate against the refinancing math if you purchased in 2022 or 2023 at peak rates. Rates have moderated since those highs. Whether the refinancing math works for your specific situation depends on your current rate, your remaining term, your closing cost estimate, and your realistic timeline in the home. Run the numbers with a fee-only mortgage advisor before making any decision, but run them because the potential savings in the right scenario are not small. The fourth is the most counterintuitive and the most important. When your mortgage is paid off, whether that's in 20 years or 12, do not immediately deploy the former mortgage payment into lifestyle expansion. Deploy it into the investment account. The same automation, the same monthly transfer, pointed at a brokerage account instead of a loan servicer. The habit of directing that amount somewhere intentional is already built. The only change is the destination. The people who pay off their mortgage and immediately redirect the payment into investments are the ones who arrive at 65 with the financial position that everyone assumes requires a higher income or a fortunate circumstance. It requires neither. It requires the payment going somewhere productive when the bank no longer needs it. The $2,400 leaving your account on Monday morning is not just $2,400, it never was. But the full number, the $1.3 million, is also not fixed. It is the outcome of the default path, the 30-year standard payment structure that requires no decisions and produces the most expensive version of home ownership available. Every decision you make that diverges from that default, every extra principal payment, every refinancing that genuinely pencils out, every year the mortgage gets paid off earlier, reduces that $1.3 million figure. Not by a small amount, by hundreds of thousands of dollars that stay in your life instead of going to a bank that has been earning interest on your home since the day you signed. I think about that number every time I see the transfer clear. Not with anxiety, with intention. You should too. The $1.3 million number is not inevitable. It's the default, and defaults exist to be changed. Subscribe for a new video every week. Drop your mortgage rate in the comments. I'm curious where people are sitting right now.